Hello everybody, my name is Starruptor. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for The Suicide Squad, written and directed by James Gunn. So this one does follow up Suicide Squad. It is a sequel, but it really does kind of take what that movie's foundation was and amplify it by quite a large margin. So I'm super excited to get into this movie because I was buzzing after watching this, and buzzing in the good way, because this is right off the top an excellent superhero or comic book film. So if we've watched Suicide Squad before, we kind of know what the plot will be for the Suicide Squad. We have a bunch of inmates that are giving the chance to get some years off of their life sentences if they do some crazy missions, which they probably will die from doing. So we have Corto Maltese, which is a Corto Maltese, which is a legendary location in DC. In the DC comics, it's in South America. There's a coup going on. There's some special information that the US government has a stake in that they must retrieve. So they send in the Suicide Squad, and well, there's a lot of death in this movie. It is an absolute war movie, as James Gunn was promoting it, and he stood by those words, and man, is this thing a war movie. There's elements of like Saving Private Ryan when they're storming, the beach, like the beaches of Normandy or something, but with crazy characters. Nobody is safe. You watch this movie, nobody is safe. Characters that were featured in the first Suicide Squad are killed off almost instantly in this movie. It's incredibly awesome to see this happening. The introduction of these characters and how Suicide Squad works is so much better than 2016 Suicide Squad. The introductions and all that, transitions between scenes, everything's very flashy. Non-linear storytelling. I feel like there's lots of great moments where it's like, okay, 3 days earlier, stuff that kind of like you see something happening and they kind of peel back the curtain on how we got there. So I did enjoy that non-linear storytelling because it gives us a bit of a little bit more complexity to the plot of this movie. All in all, I mean, the biggest thing for this is the epitome of a comic book movie. And what I mean, and I'll try really hard not to give you guys spoilers in this, is seeing crazy things that you would expect to see in a comic book actually play out in live action, but actually be entertaining and done in a way that's tasteful to a certain degree. I mean, you've seen the trailers. We have Starro, the Conqueror, this big ass starfish from intergalactic space, whatever. Like, you have that going on. You have a guy named freaking Polka Dot Man. Come on, there's a king shark. Like, they don't try to justify how these things are in reality. They're there. They exist. Leave your suspension of belief at the door. Walking into this movie, if you are a fan of this thing, you are going to be impressed, right? You are going to have so many laughs in this movie. There were so many well-timed, great deliveries on the comedy in this movie. It was like I was laughing so hard, and then the next joke will come up, and I'd be laughing continually, forgetting about what happened prior to the previous joke. Stuff like that. I think that the tone is really hit well, because just as anything is going to get too serious, they kind of bring it back with some really funny, but usually very gory kind of theatrics in this. And I will say, this is a rated R movie in all kind of design, right? Like, you're seeing people's craniums separated. You're seeing people literally ripped in half. I think they did a great job, especially with those King Shark scenes, seeing the practical effects. And we know that, James Gunn went on Twitter and said this. They used practical effects in a lot of these really gory shots. And I think, that attention to detail, where they could have used CGI in place of that, really added to the effect and just how it all looked. I love the characters, and you're 20 years or something into these comic book movies and decades and decades upon comic book characters, and they still make the at least the lead characters in this seem very unique, seem almost like something we haven't seen before, right? Like seeing Harley Quinn. Yes, we've seen her in other movies, but the fact that, she has different elements about her that make her very fresh in this movie specifically. But then you even have characters like Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, as well as Peacemaker, played by John Cena. Now, they even make a joke about that, you know, in the movie. It's like, hey, what's your ability? Oh, I'm just really good at shooting things with any kind of things I can get my hands on. He's like, hey, that's my ability too. Like, we've seen a ton of those types of characters throughout Marvel, throughout DC. And, you know, the other guy's like, oh, I'll just, you know, shoot through your hole even smaller, whatever, like that. I'll do whatever you do better, basically. Okay, cool. Like, there's lots of funny stuff like that where they kind of poke fun at the meta of it all. Like, yes, we have lots of these same kind of characters, but then you have a character like I said before, like Polka Dot Man. Like, what? Like, what is your power? Just throwing polka dots at people? Yeah, pretty much. That's actually his ability. King Shark is awesome. Seeing this character, literally, they don't try to justify his existence again. It's just this shark that is hungry, and, well, he has a taste for human flesh, shall we say. So lots of great kind of stuff there. And bringing it towards the end, you see all these characters that actually have a little bit of arcs to their stories. In a movie that is an ensemble, meaning there's like at least 20 characters, and more than half these characters are dead within the first 10 minutes of the movie. Actually giving these characters something to do, something that we didn't see in the original Suicide Squad movie. We didn't really see the stakes. We didn't really see the emotional attachment to seeing, hey, what's going to happen with these people? Whereas in this, everything comes full circle. You see everything playing out, you know, coming in from the beginning. So that's great writing, you know, on James Gunn's part, actually seeing that play through. This is the Suicide Squad I always wanted to see. Reading the comics, seeing these guys go on these crazy journeys, just doing stuff, funny stuff. They attempted it in 2016 with Suicide Squad, and it just didn't really play off that well. Nothing like this. This movie has plenty of different scenes, or sets rather, to keep things fresh, you know, nighttime, during the day, whereas Suicide Squad was just so dirty and dingy and whatnot. And, you know, this isn't a comparison video, this is a review, so I'm going to try to stay away from constantly comparing this thing to Suicide Squad, but there's gotta be some connections here. Like, we have Bloodsport, who is basically Deadshot, played by Will Smith in Suicide Squad 2016, whereas Idris Elba, I think, did a much better job at portraying this kind of hard-edged mercenary that maybe kind of has a soft heart at some point in this movie, maybe. So yes, I mean, I'm going on and on and on about this movie because there's really not a lot about going on about negatively. I would say, oh yeah, could the CGI be better at certain parts? Of course. I mean, is there references to Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad 2016 that were satisfying to me? Not enough, but what I will say is this movie's awesome. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I will say this is probably going to be the biggest movie of the summer. Okay, we're towards the end of the summer. Definitely the biggest movie of the summer. And James Gunn nailed it, man. This is what happens when a studio doesn't interfere with the creator's vision, and he's able to actually go in and do this, because I don't know if DC would have let any other creator actually do something to this degree. Like, this is really there for the sweaty nerds. I don't know if all the mainstream audience is really going to connect with this as much as I would, or as much as some other hardcore comic book fans, but to see this kind of care and just aptitude for translating something from comic book pages to live action, I don't know if I've ever actually seen this before, other than Deadpool being very much just so good with that kind of thing. And, I don't know, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but that's animation, so that's something else. But what I will say is definitely try to see this in the theater if you are able to, because as a war movie, very big explosions, lots of awesome cinematic views. I know this thing's getting kind of different things because it's on the HBO Max app. Watch it somehow, because this movie in general is just awesome. So for more on DC movie reviews and movie reviews in general, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel so you never miss any of that content. Especially hit that notification bell icon, because you will be alerted when new videos go live. I also have that Star Wars podcast that I do weekly called Outer Rim Transmission. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to that on wherever podcasts can be found. That's going to do it for me, Star Raptor. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at StarRaptor.